I want to update you with a few things in regard to the plan and project. This is the plans that you have, the paper plans that you have and that Rich is estimating on, although he's estimating trusses. But your plans show the 612 pitch, conventional frame with the ridge beam, etc. Your clearance at that rate is 11 foot 7. Now that we are entertaining the idea of using trusses instead of conventional frame like this, probably I would try to investigate whether a higher pitch could be entertained. I don't know if a 712 can fit, but if it could, that means the bottom chord's going to be 512 and 712 at the top chord, and you would lose about 7 inches in height in that room as a net result. In any event, 6.5 12 over 4.5 12 is almost certainly doable and probably is what you'll end up with. In that event, you lose about a foot out of the room, 10 foot 7 from the bottom of that beam down from 11 foot 7. Although, to be honest, with the conventional framing at 6.5 12, that would have been about 11 10. So perhaps you're losing 15 inches. This last bit we'll cover as well in the film is the width of these columns or these beams, finished beams, and the columns. I had mentioned this earlier that perhaps they should be a little wider, and I'm not actually convinced that they should be, but I'll show it to you both ways. Now, in the event you did not use a beam in the center, you can use these trusses here, and did not use a beam and just used a block to hang the ceiling fan from, it's 11.6 to the peak with a 4.5 12 pitch. And these are just these columns with that 6.5 over 4.5 with the 9-inch columns and the 7-inch columns. This brings us to how this impacts the rest of the structure down this way. This, I've gone ahead and modeled this as 6.5 12 pitch. This is a conventional frame with the main beam up and the ridge beam, etc. A 6.5 12 pitch with 9-inch columns. And that is with the 7-inch columns. 9 and 7, and that's the conventional framing. Now if we this is the 612. This was where we were with 612, 612, 6.5 12. These 612s you could just look at, just showing you different looks. And there's 612 with a 9-inch column and the 7-inch column again. I think the 9-inch column's the way to go. And there's the 7. Now, if they can manage a 712 over 512, that's what these few are. It's 512 pitch down here at the bottom, with and without a main beam, since it's not necessary at all. And this just drops it. This is a 4.5 12 pitch. This is probably the most likely scenario. A 4.5 12 pitch on the lower chord, 6.5 12 on the upper chord, if trusses are used. With and without a beam. And this, to the extent you can see it, this is 4.5 12 pitch still, a different treatment of the ceiling, but the 7-inch columns and the 9-inch columns. Again, I prefer the 9-inch columns. You can see them a little bit better in this kind of nighttime view. So to me it's the 9-inch columns. If I was doing the picking, it's the 9-inch columns, and then it's either going to be that 4.5 12 lower chord or the full 6.5 12 conventional framed upper chord. Alright, from outside then, this is the last little bit I'm thinking. This was that 612 and we brought it up to 6.5 12, and certainly that is doable. All this is the change in the columns. You see the 9-inch columns here, and we shrink to the 7-inch columns. I think those are a bit undersized for the structure itself, the chimney and everything else. I think the 9s are the way to go. And the only other thing was whether or not we brought these lower in the plans that you have right now. I show those forward 2 inches further than they would be if they were identical to this. And that's all that's happening here, is that shift back with the 7s. And I don't know, I think probably the safer bet is pushed back like that. And from this side we have the same series of 4-level photos with the 7-inch columns and these things forward, the 9-inch columns and those things forward, and now those shift back with the 7-inch and with the 9-inch. I think that's that. Oh, here's a couple shots from inside, so you could did what I could with these. That was with the 7-inch columns. I do not have a shot of everything, but even from in here, that might be the 9s there. I can't tell from this angle, but there it is certainly the 7s, and I think it would be the 9s would be better. But let me know what your thoughts are on that, and on you can really just communicate with Rich with regard to whether you want the trusses or the conventional framing. Nothing really changes substantially in any event. But when I do finalize the plans, I would be, if they're trusses, I'll be drawing them 6/12 over 4.5 12, and otherwise I'll be drawing a conventional framed roof with the 6.5 12 pitch. And that is it. And then don't forget the size of these columns, and finally whether those come forward or not. I don't have a feeling on those. Probably it's safer to leave them back at the end of the day. That's all though. Let me know. Thanks.